Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I'm from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about heading back to the office. Now, ever since the pandemic lockdown started, sometime around an eternity ago, the number one question people have been asking, and are still asking today, is if and when I go back to work, what is that going to look like? Now, a lot of professions have been back to full open for a while now. Obviously, retail and fast food. Over time, they've learned how to deal with changes. PPE, distancing, limiting the number of people. These things, combined with vaccinations, have helped to mitigate the spread of the pandemic, which, by the way, there's still a pandemic out there. And now that vaccination rates have reached approximately half, the majority of corporations are full opening back up. And they're all having to make a decision. Do they force people to come back to the office? Do they do some kind of a hybrid system? Or do they just let people stay working from home? So what I thought I would look at today is some polls and some comments and interviews with industry people to see which way this is leaning. And then when I'm done talking about all these different sectors and employees and, people's opinions, I want to show you what the mindset is of the executive and the people who will ultimately be making the decision as to whether or not their companies, businesses, or corporations will be forcing people to come back into an office. Here we go. Employees are going to quit if they're forced to return to the office. Well, that's certainly an opening statement. Also, the kind of thing I like to see, as I always prefer when workers or laborers or the working class get to have more direct input in the decision making regarding how they do their job and accomplish their tasks. Now, here is a handy dandy graph showing all the respondent feelings about certain advantages that have actually popped up for most of them as a result of working from home for the last year and a half. Tops on the list: no commute, cost savings, avoiding COVID exposure, time savings, and of course, not having to get dressed for work. As somebody who doesn't even own a single pair of pants, I feel that one. Employers may be itching to get the office up and running again, but filling those empty desks may be harder than they think. Almost 60% of employees say they would quit their job if forced to return to the office, and more than a third of employees want to work from home permanently, according to a survey by FlexJobs, a job listings platform. Just 2% of employees would like to return to the office full time. I'm going to be reading a number of surveys like this. The numbers kind of move, but the trends are consistent. Quote, even under these strained and unusual circumstances, employees appreciate the benefits to such a strong degree that they would leave their current jobs in order to keep working from home, said Sarah Sutton, the CEO of FlexJobs. The landscape of remote work has permanently changed as a result of COVID-19, and its impact will be felt in the job market and the workplace well into the foreseeable future. 68% of employers want workers in the office at least 3 days a week, according to the Society for Human Resource Management. And again, this is another trend you're going to see repeated throughout the articles, in much the same way that all of these are going to show that there is a portion to a large portion of employees who want to go to flex scheduling or completely work from home. You're going to see that a large portion of executives and HR want people back in the office. Just because you can work from home doesn't mean you'll be allowed to. Which jobs are heading back to the office and which can stay home varies widely. Among industries well suited to online work, there is a range in who is allowed to work remotely or not. On one end of the spectrum are the finance and law sectors, whose workers have been less likely to work from home all along, despite a high potential for their work to be done remotely. These industries are going back to the office sooner, and workers will be less likely than in other types of work to be allowed to complete their work remotely thanks to work cultures that prioritize in-person interactions, whether they're necessary or not. Pay close attention to the usage of the term work culture, you're going to see it a few more times as we go through these. On the other end are a variety of industries, including tech, where some companies like Twitter and Dropbox are giving employees the option to permanently work remote. Of course, even within tech, there is variation. Amazon, known for its brutal corporate culture, plans to have most of its white-collar workers back in the office by early fall, saying it wants to return to, quote, an office-centric culture as our baseline. There is a certain mentality that goes into wanting to have everybody in a building, in their little cube, with the well-dressed overseers occasionally going by to make polite office talk with them while, looking at what's going on their desk behind them, just to make sure people are, really putting both oars in the water and pushing really hard. Yeah, some corporations and some industries just have that ingrained into them as part of their business plan. Meanwhile, companies that choose not to allow workers flexibility in where they work will be met with resistance. The vast majority of employees, 89%, say they want to be allowed to work remotely some or all of the time. So companies with stricter office rules could have trouble attracting and keeping talent, with 1 in 4 employees saying they might quit their jobs after the pandemic, mostly because they want to look for work with greater flexibility. Office buildings are opening back up. Not all employees want to return. From anxiety over catching the coronavirus to fears of losing flexibility gained while working from home, many workers do not want to go back to their pre-pandemic ways. Not everyone has had the luxury of working from home, but for those who have the ability to throw in a load of laundry while they work, spend more time with family, or make more home-cooked meals have been silver linings in an otherwise challenging year. Quote, I just feel like I can take care of myself better and have the ability to, said Brittany Dales, 27, a legal secretary who lives in San Bernardino, California. Not driving into work has saved her mileage on her car and money on gas, and it has given her the opportunity to schedule doctor's and dentist appointments more easily after work, as well as take her dog for a walk on lunch break. Now, let me ask you, do any of these things seem unreasonable that people, workers, want to be able to, take their dog out for a walk while they eat a fucking turkey and cheese sandwich in between doing work for their job and doing work for their job? No, this is not wholly unreasonable. And considering that she works in Southern California, unless she's driving a quarter of a mile to work, I'm pretty sure not having to commute is saving her a solid 2 hours a day. Y'all realize that's like 8% of your total time, right? If you take commuting out of the picture, you literally get almost 10% of your life back. Time that you were spending just going from one place to another to do the task that you have been doing from home for the last year and a half. A survey released last month by the American Psychological Association found that 49% of adults feel uneasy about returning to in-person interactions once the pandemic is over. Vaccination status did not affect that. 48% of those who have already been vaccinated say they too feel uncomfortable with in-person interactions. That could be in part because of the uncertainty that remains over the vaccines, even as encouraging evidence emerges indicating that they offer protection for at least 6 months. Quote, we know we have effective vaccines, but we still don't know for how long. We still don't know how effective they are against the variants. We still don't have vaccines for children. There's still a lot to figure out. Now, speaking just from a nature of human perspective, a lot of people got extremely stressed out at the beginning of the pandemic because they didn't know how they were going to handle their work-life balance. If the kids weren't in school, it meant they were home. If they were home and the child care workers wouldn't come, well, now you have to take care of your own children during the same time slot you're supposed to be working. Are you going to have to homeschool your child? What is the best time to try to go to a grocery store and get the things you need for your house? Will you still be able to go to the doctor for your quarterly checkups for whatever cancer you used to have? There were 1,000,001 questions, and over the course of a year and a half, People slowly figured it out, some people quicker than others, again, because everybody has a preference in the type of behavior and the type of patterns that they engage in. And again, that's fine, because people are different, and we're supposed to look at the same goal from different perspectives, or else we would all be drones and not human beings. But the greater point is that the majority of people have now found, quote, a new way. So again, now that we're at this point, people don't want to have to change again. And now we get a look at the thought process of those inside the ivory tower. What are y'all thinking there, boss people? As a CEO, I worry about the erosion of office culture with more remote work. Uh-oh, it's the boss of bosses, the CEO. Like many of my fellow small business owners, I'm excited about the prospect of returning to in-person work, but I'm struggling with when and how to safely reopen our office, how many days a week, vaccination requirements, mask mandates, and so on. But also, like my peers, I'm concerned about the unfortunately common office worker who wants to continue working at home and just go into the office on occasion. Yeah, let me tell you, those commoners who work in the office, oh, those people are the worst. They always want stuff. In several group calls with chief executives, I found a great sense of pride in how well our teams have done during the past year. You know, all those people rapidly adapted and changed their own lives and the lives of their whole family just to better suit their boss. Yeah, the CEO's really proud of them. However, there's always a however. However, we all started at a place where we and our employees knew one another, which made remote work considerably easier and more productive. We also could rely on office cultures, established practices, unspoken rules, and shared values, established over years in large part by interacting in person. Now, we face recreating a workplace where a good culture of trust will be harder to build. Hey, could you imagine going to work for somebody who basically says, unless they can keep their eyes on you all the time, they don't trust you? Does that sound like somebody you would want to work for? Because where I come from, that person sounds like a dick. Now here you go. This one large paragraph, this is the crux of the entire CEO mentality, so pay close attention, kids. While some employees might like to continue to work from home and pop in only when necessary, that presents executives with a tempting economic option the employees might not like. I estimate that about 20% of every job is outside of one's core responsibilities. Extra. It involves helping a colleague, mentoring more junior people, celebrating somebody's birthday, things that drive office culture. Office culture. This is where we are. Once again, please note that all of those things that are outside of their responsibility, that, you know, even though they're not responsible for it, the CEO still wants them to do it because the boss loves nothing more than extracting more of your time and more of your labor right in front of them in the same room so that they can gleefully think about how successful they were in life, that they could force 20 people to go into a break room and sing happy birthday for Susie. Hey, Susie, I like you. Technically, I could sing happy birthday from my fucking couch on a Zoom call. What I don't want to have to do is sit around with all these other jackholes for an hour in a room and act like I give a crap. Guess what? Everybody has birthdays, okay? After like the first, 25 or so, do they really fucking count anyway? Like, come on, who's sitting around going, woohoo, tomorrow's my birthday? Yeah, nobody who works in an office, because you know what people who work in an office are thinking? Good fucking God, I have to go back to the office tomorrow. That's it. If the employee is rarely around to participate in those extras, management has a strong incentive to change their status to contractor. Instead of receiving a set salary, contractors are paid only for the work they do, either hourly or by appropriate output metrics. That would also mean not having to pay for health care, a 401k match, and our share of FICA and Medicare taxes. Benefits that in my company's case add up to roughly an extra 15% of compensation. Not to mention the potential savings of reduced office space and extras such as bonuses and parking fees. Now we get to the rub. This is the boss mentality. You're overpaid for the job you already have, and you should be thankful you have it. And well, I'm sure I would be more than happy to just make you a part-time employee who doesn't get all the perks of having a real job if you don't want to be a real employee. Why? Because remote work isn't real employees. Those are just contractors. Real employees, they put in the grind. They show they care by exhibiting our corporate work culture. And how do they do that? They spend 2 hours a day in a car and an hour getting dressed and all gussied up so that they can sit around and listen to your shitty stories and smile so that you can feel better about yourself, not having merely employees, but followers and sycophants. And that is the core of the problem. Now, if you have a job that can't be done nearly as effectively at home as it can be done in the workplace, yes, I would understand if that workplace said, we're going to need you to be here. But all this optional bullshit, this 20% of your job isn't really your listed job responsibilities. It's just what we expect in return for you being an actual employee. This is all a power play. This is the kind of thing that gets thrown out there to try to reinforce the structure that has been developed in the work hard, work hard, work hard, or your lazy attitude that pervades the American workplace. Why should you be special? Why should you be able to walk your dog in the middle of the day? Why should you be able to parent your children and still have a full-time job? No, you shouldn't be able to do that. Your time is mine. Your body is mine. And if it's not sitting in the chair in my office where I can come by and tell it jokes and force it to laugh at them, well then, I don't know that I want you as an employee. This is what is driving the conversation as to whether or not people should go back to work. For the last time, if you're one of those people who does better in those in-person group environments, I wish you well going back to your day job. I harbor no ill will towards you. But please don't think for a second that either you or your boss can shame people into coming back in to the cube life if they don't want to. Because there are many, many options out there. So choose wisely, bosses, and decide. Do you want productive employees, high productivity, and profit? Or do you want to be cock of the walk and walk by everybody's office every day and flex your plumage just so you can see other people react to it? Ask yourself which one's more important. Until next time, my name is James. I'm from the internet and I am out. Peace.